Hello, everyone. Mad Dog here. Hope you have had a good week. My week's been long, but it hasn't been too bad. It has been better than last week. Excuse me. So, my last vlog and the supplemental video that I put up got the lowest viewership of any of the vlogs that I have done so far. Only 2 people have watched both videos. So I have decided to change my mind. I'm not going to read 1984. However, I am still going to read something. But what I'm going to read is stuff that I have written. So here we go. Let's give this a shot, see how it goes. Most of these are also available on Amazon Kindle. I published them there. Some of them are not. One of them is very much a work in progress. Progress. But I haven't gotten to it. I'm going to be working on that and reading it to you as I work on it when I get to it. But first, let's start with something shorter. Here goes nothing. Cemetery Dreams. Inside his motorcycle helmet, Bill Kramer frowned. Though it made no sense, he had a sudden, overwhelming feeling that he was being followed. Glancing over at the mirror on his left, he saw an old-fashioned black sedan trailing along a couple of car lengths behind him. Something about seeing that car caused Bill's frown to deepen, and he gave the bike a little more throttle, wanting to widen the gap a little bit more. As he watched the sedan, however, it accelerated with him, keeping its distance, but plainly pacing him. This time of day, just after 3 in the morning, the road Bill shared with the sedan was all but deserted. Bill himself wouldn't have been on it if he hadn't wound up staying later at a friend's house than he'd intended. Up until overcome by the feeling of being followed, the only thing on his mind had been how much hell he was going to catch from his wife when he got home. At the time, he dreaded hearing the scolding tone she was sure to use with him, a tone that lately she'd be using with him more often than not. But now, knowing that he was indeed being followed, he found himself wanting nothing more than to hear that voice of hers which, once upon a time, had spoken only lovingly to him, and never in anger or disappointment. I don't think you'll be hearing Angie's voice again. Not in this life, anyway. The matter-of-fact voice, which seemed to originate from inside Bill's motorcycle helmet, nearly caused Bill to lose control of the bike. He held on, though, barely, and said, "Who said that?" "That isn't a question with an easy answer," the voice said, still speaking in that matter-of-fact tone. "Suffice it to say, however, I am a friend. One of very few it seems you have right now." "What do you mean about me not hearing Angie's voice again?" "She's dead." The voice's tone didn't change at all. "Has been since midnight." Bill grasped the handlebars of his bike as tight as he could and stared straight ahead at the small portion of road in front of him, his headlamp made visible. "That voice isn't real," he thought. "It can't be. And neither is the car behind me. I'm just tired. My blood sugar might be low, too." "Low blood sugar? After all that crap you ate at Jason's? You should be thankful I'm not your doctor." "Shut up," Bill growled. "You aren't real. None of this is." "If that's so, what is it?" "I probably passed out at Jason's. I'm probably in the back of an ambulance on the way to the hospital right now." "All right," the voice said after a long pause. Had something about the way it sounded changed? "What if I told you that were true? What if I did say that right now you are, indeed, unconscious? What if I told you that all this was just a dream?" Just a dream. Suddenly, Bill let out a sharp gasp. This was all just a dream he had had many times before. Time and time again he'd been chased down this road by the sedan that was behind him now. In the back seat of that sedan was a tall, slender man dressed in a black suit. That man had dead, emotionless eyes that were as black as his suit, and he wanted something from Bill. Something that only Bill, who had, as a child, watched his father's soul leave its body and pass over into the afterlife, could give. "Do you know how many times you've had this dream, Bill?" The voice, which Bill now understood was the voice of his father, asked. "No. Then, a lot. And then, this isn't just a dream." "You're right. It's just as real as us going on in the back of the ambulance you're in. Or rather, the back of the ambulance you were in." Bill flinched as if he'd been struck. "What do you mean?" he said, not liking the panic he heard in his voice. "That's where I am. That's where my body is." He glanced over at the mirror. The sedan was closer. Isn't it? I can't say, his father's voice said, sounding mournful. That's something you're going to need to remember on your own. For a time, Bill rode on in silence. He knew now that the road he shared with the sedan wasn't a real road, and also knew where it led. A small cemetery that sat at its very end. That was where this dream always ended, too, with him switching the bike off and dismounting to confront the man in the sedan. Always at that moment, the dream would start over again. Wait, not always. That wasn't what happened the first time. Bill moaned, the sound muffled by the helmet he wore. "Oh, Jesus," he said. "Oh, Jesus." "Steady, son. Don't lose control of the bike." Why not? Why shouldn't he? If what had happened the first time he had this dream were true, he deserved to die. "I killed her," Bill whispered. Then louder, shouting within his helmet, "I killed her!" "No, you didn't. Whatever that thing is in the car behind you did. And you have a chance to stop it, to change the way things happened." "What are you talking about? What's done is done. You taught me that a long time ago." "Yes, Bill, I did. But after I died, I learned that wasn't always true, particularly when it came to things that were never supposed to happen." "Everything's supposed to happen," Bill said. The copse of cottonwoods and the cemetery it held was getting close. Nearly time for the dream to end so it could begin again, no matter how bad or good it is. "I wish I'd never taught you that, Bill, because it isn't true. No one's fate is set in stone, not unless you allow it to be." Bill fell silent, staring ahead at nothing, knowing the dream would end where it was meant to, regardless of anything he did. The repetition of the dream was his punishment for what he'd done. It didn't matter that it wasn't himself who had been in control when Angie was stabbed. God, how he wished he could banish the image of all that blood. What matters was that he'd been weak enough to allow it to happen. Weakness had become the status quo for him, though. Since losing his job, the one that would have made it so he and Angie could have retired in just a few short years and never have to worry about money again, he had given in to every one of his worst weaknesses, with no signs that he was going to stop any time soon. "How do I make the cycle of dreams stop?" Bill asked. "Change something by making a conscious decision to do so." "I have. I've decided I want to die." "That option is open." The voice of Bill's father sounded uncertain. "But is that what you really want? I already told you you have a chance here to save Angie's life." "That's horse crap, and you know it. There's no taking back what I did to Angie." "Is that so? Why would I say you could keep her from dying if it wasn't true?" Bill's voice grew very quiet. "Because you're not really my father. Because you want to give me hope when there is none." The gate to the cemetery at the end of the road was open, just like it always was. Bill drove the bike through, bringing it to a stop once he was beneath the boughs of the largest of the cottonwoods. As he killed the engine and took off his helmet, Bill heard the squeak of the sedan's brakes as it pulled up behind him. "I know what you're planning to do," the voice that couldn't be his father's, "not really," said. "If it works, you'll die. Here and in the back of the ambulance. The dreams will stop. You'll get your wish." There was a pause, and Bill knew there was more the voice had to say. He didn't have to listen. His mind was already made up, but he did anyway. "But Angie, Bill, Angie will still die. She and God alone knows how many others. All by the hand of that thing in the sedan, which, through your death, will be given everything it wants. Everything it has always wanted. The choice is yours, Bill. Even the choice to be a coward. The choice to be weak." Bill sat on the bike, the night around him still and silent. Hadn't he been choosing weakness and cowardice ever since losing his job? Hadn't that been why he started drinking again, and why his marriage started falling apart? Of course, choosing that path here meant death. Was there still a chance to take a different path, though? Haven't I already changed things by deciding to kill myself? Above him, light from the full moon shone down through the branches of the cottonwood. The light allowed him to see a number of the nearby tombstones, as well as the wrought iron fence that enclosed the cemetery, the back of which he had intended to ram his bike, with him on it, into, an act that somehow he knew would be fatal. It'll be fatal because this is my dream, Bill suddenly realized. I have control here. Which is why, he now saw with startling clarity, he kept having the dream. You were right, Bill whispered, not knowing if the voice, which had been that of his father, could still hear him. Angie doesn't have to die. He got off the bike, turning to face the sedan behind him just as the man, who was not a man at all, in the black suit stepped out. So, the thing in the black suit said, you choose to face me. Its voice was flat and absent of emotion, just like its eyes, which only made it all the more menacing. This marks you as brave, but bravery is often the hallmark of fools. It took a moment for the thing in the suit's words to sink in, but when they did, it was all Bill could do to keep from grinning. As far as it was concerned, this was the first time any of these events had happened, and because of that, it had no way of knowing Bill had figured out otherwise. That may be so, Bill said, and Lord knows I've been foolish more times than I care to admit, but this time isn't one of them. The thing in the suit hesitated before responding, and in its hesitation, Bill thought he detected its first true display of emotion. Confusion. You do not fear me, it said at last, and the confusion could be heard in its voice. No, I don't, Bill said, allowing himself to grin. Not this time. The thing in the suit stared at Bill a moment longer, then turned back to the sedan and opened the rear door, hurriedly climbing inside. Once it was back inside, the sedan began backing away down the gravel path that led to the road. It couldn't leave, however, unless Bill allowed it to, and so he made all of the sedan's tires go flat at the same time. That didn't stop it, however. Bill's lack of fear apparently terrified the thing in the suit, and so Bill had to make his engine seize up, an act that caused a horrible squealing noise to emanate from beneath the sedan's hood, accompanied by clouds of steam and white smoke. The rear door of the sedan opened, but when the thing in the suit stepped back out, it didn't try to run, an act that both surprised and pleased Bill, who was ready for this confrontation to end. You cannot destroy me. You cannot destroy me, the thing in the suit said. You cannot imprison me. You should not have been capable of resisting me at all. Why force me to stay? Bill felt that, given time, he could learn how to imprison or destroy the thing in the suit. He had a power, apparently, a power the thing wanted, but which it also feared. Right now, the thing didn't know just how in control of that power Bill was. Bill himself wasn't all that sure either, as he was acting on nothing but instinct alone, and was trying to use any tactic it could to get Bill to let it go, even though it already knew Bill was no longer frightened of it. You're right, Bill said. I can't keep you here, and I can't destroy you. Yet. He took a step forward and grinned when the thing in the suit took a step back. I want you to remember something, though. I am aware of you now, and I'm not going to allow you to do to someone else what you tried to do to me. Bill looked at the tires of the sedan, which re-inflated. You can go now. Before I go, Seer, I want you to remember something as well. I am not alone. There are others of my kind. You cannot stop all of us. The thing in the suit made to get back in the sedan. That may be so, Bill said, his voice causing the black-clad figure to pause in the act of closing the sedan door. We'll see. The thing in the suit looked at him with dead, coal-black eyes. The moonlight reflected in those eyes gave them an unsettling cast, and this time it was the thing's turn to grin, showing Bill a mouthful of teeth that were needle-sharp and predatory. Not entirely unafraid, then, it said, then ducked inside the sedan and closed the door. The sedan's engine roared to life, and when its headlights came on, they left Bill momentarily blinded. When the glare faded, he was alone beneath the cottonwood. Christ, I'm tired, Bill thought, which was the last thought he had before waking up. Bill was in the hospital for almost a week. Once the doctors were satisfied his blood sugar was back under control, that he was no longer in any danger of having a stroke or heart attack. He'd apparently had a small stroke during the ambulance ride to the hospital, but none of the doctors were sure what had caused it. Angie drove him home. Angie had been quiet with him in the hospital, and had been even more so on the drive home. Bill knew she blamed him for the reasons he'd been in the hospital, and they were largely his fault, but she hadn't said anything about it. Once they were in the house, Bill took a seat in his chair in the living room and watched as, for the next several minutes, Angie busied herself with nothing much at all. Angie had red hair and green eyes, and wasn't quite as slim as she had been when she and Bill had gotten married. She was still the most beautiful woman Bill had ever known. She's more beautiful now, Bill thought, and said, "Angie, can you stop a minute so I can talk to you?" Angie stopped what she was doing and looked at him. The fear he saw in her eyes, fear not of him, but of what could have happened to him, made his eyes sting. "Come over here and sit down," he said. Hesitantly she walked over, and when she sat, it wasn't in the chair beside Bill's. It was on the footstool in front of him. How long had it been since she'd done that? Too long by far. Bill looked at Angie for a long moment, not sure exactly how to say what he wanted to tell her. At last, he reached out, taking her hands in his, and said, "Angie, I'm sorry. For everything." She didn't respond right away, but she did hold his gaze, staring into his eyes as much as he stared into hers. "For everything?" she said at last, her voice very soft. "For everything." "Does that mean I get my husband back?" Angie's eyes were starting to fill with tears. Bill had to blink and clear his throat before answering. "Yes, love." She threw her arms around him, then, burying her face in the crook of his neck. Bill held her as she cried, closing his eyes as tears of his own slid down his cheeks. No more being weak, he thought. No more being a coward. An image suddenly formed behind Bill's eyelids, the grinning face of the thing in the suit, with its empty eyes and needle-sharp teeth. Bill gasped and opened his eyes. "Honey?" Angie leaned back, looking at him. "What's wrong?" He looked at her for a moment, then smiled. "Nothing, sweetheart." He pulled her close again. "Nothing at all."